much to talk about. It is Tuesday, the 15th day in the month of March 2016. As you battle the congested city streets and drive home traffic, if you're going home at this time, we have fair skies for you. 86 degrees, pretty much hot today in the capital. And the overnight low of 74 tonight. And of course, there is a 20% chance of rain in the forecast. We thank you so much for joining us on the drive home. I'm Steve McKinney. This is Hard Copy. We're brought to you today by the National Insurance Board, Nassau Motor Company, Commonwealth Bank, your friends at CBOHU, the Ministry of Tourism, Galena Insurance for comprehensive coverage, Bahamas Foot and Ankle, Blake Road, Super Wash, 10 locations, open 24/7. The Bank of the Bahamas, the Bank of Solutions, Customs Immigration Union big gathering tomorrow night, or is it on the 17th? SuperValu to the All Bahamas Supermarkets, McKinney Media Group for effective PR concepts and advertisement. Advantage Shores and Brokers, 61 Collins Avenue. Ron's Electric Motors, Claridge and Wolf Road, Sky Bahamas, professionals in every way, every day. CFAL, Cleaner Financial Advisors Limited, Executive Printers, Henry F. Store, The Light People, New Oriental Laundry, and Le Bleu Ultra Pure Drinking Water, the official water of Hard Copy. Call us today, 325-0235 or 6. You can WhatsApp us or text us at 376-9234. Follow us on the World Wide Web, peace1075.com, cable top box 970. And on TuneIn Radio, you can go to your Android, any iPad, iPhone, you'll pick us up anywhere in the world. You can also follow us on Instagram, Hard Copy 242. Like us on Facebook, Hard Copy. Subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Twitter. You can also watch us right now live on Google+. Just follow the link from our Facebook page and you'll see my guest in the studio today, because I do have guests today, and we have a number of things that we wanted to cover. And let me just put you on notice right now, those of you beach vendors and Bahamians alike who are concerned about that beach access. There is some news to give you today on that. There's a progress report, I suppose. I'm going to be talking with Obi Ferguson, House of Mutri, and some others today, because it's an important thing as we continue to keep focus on the things that really matter to Bahamians at large. Of course, there is also this news about the Prime Minister and the government of the Bahamas and the defense that they're now playing because of the allegations that have come out in the public domain about the Prime Minister doing special favors, alleging that he did special favors for Peter Nygaard, or was urged to do some special favors, I may say. And of course, that's been ugly, ugly, ugly for the last couple of days, and some people are riding it high. Prime Minister, though, has been questioned by the police because of the Nygaard-related probe about somebody being threatened with death. And so, based upon all the things that have been said in the affidavit that's now before the court and is being tested now before the court, Commissioner of Police Elliston Greenslade and his high brass team had sat down with the Prime Minister to find out what, if anything, had been happening. The Prime Minister very much cooperating and saying that, he'd even asked the police to look into this probe of these many allegations, many of them nasty allegations and dangerous allegations, and things that a lot of Bahamians would refuse to believe, especially knowing the record of the nation's chief executive, Prime Minister Christie, one who has always prided himself on doing things above board and has never been found wanting, really, not on these kinds of issues. But Christie denies any promises that he says he denies all of that stuff. He made no promises to Nygaard, but no crown lot or nothing like that. And of course, the beat goes on as those who are probing and digging take a look, and we leave that to see how that's going to unfold. But obviously, this has impacted the Prime Minister of the Bahamas in a way that he is concerned about it, and he doesn't like it at all. And he doesn't like to have these kinds of blemishes on his record, even if there's nothing proven. Just the fact that he was caught up in some kind of scandalous allegation is something that he does not like at all. And certainly there are many in the political circles who are playing into that just because it's good political fodder. And we've got to understand that Minnis, on the other hand, says that what he is doing is purely pure as the leader of the opposition, to go and find out what, if anything, has been happening with all these controversial allegations of a murder plot targeting members of the Save the Bays environmental organization and allegations of corruption. Minnis says that more than likely the public will congratulate the opposition for the part that it played in making sure that the information came to the fore. And of course, and by that way, I suppose he was defending Michael Pintard, who had been accused of being involved in putting on this political mischief, according to Bradley Roberts, the chairman of the PLP. So a whole lot of things are topsy-turvy for the governing party, and people are pointing fingers at each other in the FNM and the PLP. And what we do here in the public is sit back and watch this. There's nothing much that we can say because these are just a bunch of allegations as it stands now. A court case may prove otherwise, but for the most part, a mouth can say anything. And that's why allegations ought to be dealt with and corrected so that we can have the correct information at some point in time. Now, while all that's going on, other matters have the nation's chief executive under fire, if you can say that. And one of those matters happen to be those investors on Paradise Island who, in fact, have ran the people off the beach. And they want to have that beach for themselves simply because they don't want to provide any more public access. And some things have been happening behind the scenes that we want to bring you up to date because this is what is important to the Bahamian public. This can touch our friends, a whole lot of other things in the public, like all of those areas that are supposed to have these public access to the beach, and they don't. And this is scary for a lot of people. I see some letters already flying to the editors of the newspapers claiming that anyone, including Minnis, who would have taken people across Paradise Island in a protest to utilize public access to these beaches on private properties are basically out of order. So when you start to hear the peanut gallery, I call it, start to talk about these things, you have to wonder if, in fact, they are in some glass houses and somebody is knocking on their glass. Because from what I know, lawyers are gathering to make sure that all public beach accesses are accessible immediately. And so when you see people writing, they're concerned. They believe that this may spill over into some other areas. And that's why I suppose there are some who tried to make an example out of the many individuals who they want to sum up as vendors. But apart from vendors and taxi drivers, this involves every single Bahamian in this country who has right of way to the beaches of the Bahamas. So we're going to be talking about that in just a minute with our special guest. And there's also more, because if there is pressure mounting on the principles of the governing party, we might as well throw in the fact that the fellas in Bimini, the taxi drivers in Bimini, which I was supposed to turn my attention to yesterday, we spoke with one R.O. Ellis, who's a pastor down there, and also a taxi cab driver. He says that they ain't making no money because somebody has authorized the big resorts to go and find their own transportation and lock them out of making any money. Sounds familiar, right? It sounds like what has been happening in some part of our neighborhood here in New Providence, and at the airport, and at the Prince George Dock and so forth. And so it seems like this is a national problem for taxi drivers and limousine drivers. And the fellas in Bimini have been making noise, notwithstanding that they look up to the Minister of Tourism, Obi Wilchcombe, and of course the mayor, I would say, of Bimini. I call him that. He doesn't call himself that. His Grace, Neil Ellis, who in fact is from Bimini and would certainly be looking out for his people. At least I think so. And so we asked if there was some reason why they're not being taken care of, and if they pursue all measures to make sure that those individuals can look out for their best interests if the hotels and the resorts have not been looking out for their interests and locking them out of making a fare and making a day's living. It sounds all familiar, right? It sounds like everything is just connected to the other. That just gives us a good idea of the troubles that we are facing in the nation when it comes to the average everyday worker versus those who have the power as foreign investors and that kind of a thing. And so a lot of people are unhappy. We'll talk about that later on in the show, so stand by. You'll hear that interview today with Pastor Ellis. That is Pastor Oral Ellis from down in Bimini, who is making the complaint. So I would advise those in authority to sit back and listen and to do something about it, because you don't need that spilling up into something else or spilling over into something else as well. In a minute, when we come back, we're going to talk with our guests and find out just what goes on and what is actually happening as we speak with the court case, with the beach access, with the vendors, with the Bahamians getting a right of passage, right of access, right of way to Cabbage Beach. Don't find it to be boring. This is your concern. And this is real stuff. This is not chopped up allegations that may take some time to be proven. This may not be as juicy, but I'll tell you this is a reality. Because if they tell you you're locked out and that's it, and this particular case goes uncontested, and Bahamians are locked out, eventually you'll get the message. This is Hard Copy. We're coming back in just a minute. This is
Minister
Tourism.
Yes, Mr. Wiltshire and I, along with Monique Taylor, who's the president of the Cabbage Beet Association, and Mr. Fred Munnins, who's a consultant to the TUC. We met with the minister. We had a very frank discussion with the minister, open discussion, and there seemed to be positive movements on the matter. It is our hope that Mr. Wiltshire and I are drafting a document that we would present to the minister for him to review, after which we will meet, and hopefully, Steve, we will put this chapter aside. But let me say this, we are resolute in ensuring that Cabbage Beach remain a public beach for all Bahamians, whether you're a vendor, whether you are just for full use of the tourists. And I must say the minister did say something about making some small investment in terms of making the environment more conducive. And he also spoke about the regulation. Let me say this, Steve, I think Mr. Wiltshire would agree with me on this. We want that beach to be regulated in a consistent manner that is representative of the Bahamian people. We don't want the tourists or the Bahamian citizens who occupy that beach to be interfered with while they're enjoying that beach with their families. So it's not only just for the tourists, it's for the tourists and for all Bahamians. It's one of the beautiful beaches we have in this country. And I remember when I came from Auckland, they took me to Cabbage Beach, and I fell in love with Cabbage Beach. So I think the signs are positive, very positive. We have not concluded all of the arrangement, but I would want to assure the public that we, and certainly the Vendors Association, that we are committed, Steve, to ensuring that Cabbage Beach remain a public beach and all beaches of this country, and not only Cabbage Beach.
Understood. I get the impression that you say that there's some positive movement, that you are under the impression that something good may happen in all of this, notwithstanding that we've had a lot of controversy about this whole matter, about who did what, and there's been some tempers flaring. Did you get the impression that the Minister of Tourism was on the fast track of trying to get this matter resolved as far as possible, well, from the government's perspective, to have beach access be maintained where it is, and to make sure that there's some way that this stand that you're resolute in will be able to be consistent with what they're doing? In other words, are you under the impression that the minister is of like mind to make sure that this access will happen?
That is in effect what the minister said. As a matter of fact, he was probably even more than that. So over his dead body, that he would ensure that it remained as is. So if that is the case, philosophically, we are on the same page in that respect. We want to just make sure that everything is in writing. And
that's what you all are doing now,
yes,
putting down the documentation.
And because it is a public issue, we have the view that it has to be resolved publicly. In other words, it just got to be something that you say it's over. We started out in the public. We're going to resolve in the public. But I'm very optimistic in terms of the outcome, based on the utterances of the minister, who seem to be on the same page, and therefore I'm certain that Mr. Wiltshire and I will ensure, along with Monique Taylor, because he even made it clear that, for example, that they will deal through the Cabbage Beet Association,
which is the association that
yes,
they should, not any of the union
yeah,
affiliate. But
yeah.
So you were pleased that Monique Taylor and her group now have the ears of the minister, because she had been saying that he seemed to have been trying to,
Yes.
Work around her and offer some inducement to her members to go someplace else. This someplace else is not in the question.
No, and it can't be a question, because in the Trade Union Congress, of which this body is part of, we take a very strong view that as an agent of the bargaining of the workers and the working people, you have to deal with the bargaining agent. You can't deal with an organization, an individual who's not recognized. So there's been indication from the minister that that's his thinking, and we would hope that when this document is completed, Steve, it would encompass all of the concerns that I have, certainly all the concerns Mr. Moultrie has, and hopefully we can take this thing to the other side.
All right, so Halson Moultrie, you've been out there as a lawyer, as a nationalist, as a Bahamian who's concerned about what's going on. What's your impression? Because I know that you are not easy on Wilshcombe at all, and rightly so, based upon the information that you had gotten. What's your impression now? Do we have something that can be worked out? Do you trust what is happening now, or is this just public relations for to I suppose prolong this whole matter until perhaps the people forget about it?
But Steve, let me say that I'm of the view that if the vendors and the taxi drivers had not taken to the action that they took on the 29th of February, the beach access would now be closed. So I must give a lot of credit to the vendors who, when they arrived to work on the 29th, discovered that the access to their livelihood was being shut down in their face, unilaterally, without any discussion to them. The taxi drivers who came, bringing guests from the cruise ship, discovered that the tourists were being advised to go east to an access near Sunrise or the Ocean Club, which is, in my estimation, a half a mile to a mile away, to access the beach, as opposed to being able to access Cabbage Beach from the historical access to Cabbage Beach. And so those places had to take action. And the reason why they had to take action, Steve, it was because despite the minister signing an agreement for giving access for 60 days to bring resolution, the government had not done anything at all. And so while we believe that we are moving on the right path in terms of finally having an opportunity to speak to the minister, my parents always told me that a promise is a comfort to a fool, particularly when you have the experience of all of the empty promises that we've been receiving over the years from this government. And so while we are moving in the right direction, we want to see the manifestation of the promises, because I also happen to be on the record as an attorney in the criminal matters being brought against the very persons who had to take the initiative that they took to cause the government to intervene, to give us this 30-day window to have this matter resolved. We are basically only 2 weeks from that deadline now.
Yeah, today's the 15th, right?
Today is the 15th. So we have an obligation to the Bahamas as a nation to fight as patriotic Bahamians to make certain that no one comes into this country and that is able to live at a higher standard than a Bahamian. We cannot permit Bahamians to be made second-class citizens in their own country. And that is why I'm so happy to have Mr. Obi Ferguson working on this program, in this initiative. He has a history of fighting for Bahamian workers' rights. No one can deny that. And Steve, when we went on Paradise Island, when that fence came down, we walked out, and I accompanied Mr. Ferguson. We walked out to the beach. And we island boys, you know, he's from Auckland, I'm from Grady Nagua, right? how could you tell a Great Inagwan and a Auckland's boy that you cannot go to the beach?
Yeah.
When we walk out to the beach, man, the northwesterly winds were blowing on our backs. We heard the waves rustling and roaring up on the shores. How could you deny that to a Bahamian?
Mhm.
God places you in this archipelago for a reason.
Mhm.
No one should be able to come
Yes.
into this archipelago and live better than us. This is our home.
I agree.
Listen, Steve, when I think about it, what is this most disturbing to me
Mhm.
is when I talk to the government and the minister, they appear to be groveling at the feet of the foreign investor. That disturbs me because our government should not be placed in a position where they have to grovel and negotiate from a point of weakness
Agreed.
on behalf of the Bahamian people.
Mhm.
The government can move with compulsory acquisition and acquire that land.
Will they though, do you think? I mean, based on all that has happened, it seems like there's a little bit more to this than the general public, myself and others perhaps cannot fathom, and that is the fact that uh, if the government can do compulsory acquisition, eminent domain, some say, okay, good. Well, why haven't they done so? All considering that these people are Bahamians, they are upset, they had protests, it looked ugly. They had two protests. They went to court in March, and the government does not need that at this juncture in their political administration this season, do they? They've got about a year and a half, thereabouts, if that much, out from a general election. It doesn't make much sense to me. So I'm wondering, is it that they just can't do anything about any compulsory acquisition as you have put on the table, as others have put on the table? Is it that it sounds simple, but it cannot happen because of other things, mitigating circumstances are there that we have not touched on or we don't know about?
Well, I don't want to speculate,
Mhm.
but it would appear to me that there's a double standard in the country. And that disturbs me as a Bahamian. Because if the government can come and compulsorily, in the best interest of the nation or public policy, acquire the land in Pinewood Gardens or any other part of New Providence to create highways, or whatever the case might be,
Mhm.
if you can take a Bahamian land, if you can come as a government, and you have the power of the state
Yes.
to do it in the public interest or for public policy reasons, if you have that power to do it to a Bahamian, it seems strange to me that you have a difficulty exercising that same power when it comes to a foreign investor on behalf
Mhm.
and in the best interests of your own people. Something has got to be wrong with that picture.
Did we get a chance in that meeting that you had with the Minister of Tourism in trying to move forward on this matter and resolve this? Did you get the impression that they realize that there's an error somewhere with the fact that the conveyance of this new, with this new owner had had also included the right of way for Bahamians to go to the beach? And did you get the impression that this was something that they acknowledge and are trying to rectify through the Office of Attorney General?
From a surface, it appears that that is precisely what may be happening at this moment. But I also think, Steve, what I thought was important was the fact that Mr. Mutri brought up some initiatives with respect to the Ministry of Finance and the fact that the landowner was setting conditions that were extraneous on the vendors getting a license. I thought those points were very valid points. And the minister gave an undertaking, and he's going to investigate those situations. But I think, Steve, what is important the fact that we sat there as professional people interested in the Bahamian public, and, um, and the minister appeared to be willing to entertain it. Mr. Moshi was good on the map. I gotta give him all the credit for the map, the way he read that map. The map was compared with what the minister had. The map, same map that he put to me, and he and I relied on. The minister had the same map. So at least that question of the easement seemed to have been as an academic exercise as far as we're concerned. So I am satisfied that, and I don't want to preempt anything, but if the minister continues to do what he's doing, and we continue to do what we're doing, I'm satisfied that at the end of the day, in short order, because they have 50 days left, some position would be agreed to.
Now, Halson, you talked about raise these issues about the fact that vendors were being required to go and get a license and go and get a letter from the owners to be able to cross that beach to go to work. And this letter was a prerequisite to getting a license.
A renewal.
A renewal.
A renewal.
A
Of a
renewal.
license.
What's the position on that? Because there are many who are listening today who are vendors and Bahamians and business persons who want to know, how is that going? Is there an understanding of a compromise on that so that the Bahamians can go to work? Because it seems like the whole thing was concocted to not allow vendors to get to the beach because they wouldn't have a license to be there, and they wouldn't have a license because they would have needed this mandatory letter to go to the business license from the owners of this property. How is that working, and how did the minister react? Did he take lead that is going to be resolved? Because it sounds like it's just an unfair move. I'm acting on behalf of those Bahamian workers.
The minister appeared to be aware of the conditions imposed by his ministry as it relates to having a proper Ministry of Tourism identification and so on to be on the beach. However, it appeared to take him by surprise that the Business License Division of the Register General's Department, which I believe falls under the portfolio of the Attorney General,
Yes.
right, had put this obstacle, as I put it, in the way of the vendors in terms of renewing the business license. Now, our position and what we advise the vendors was that, first of all, the access is a public access. It's not owned by the new owner of the property, despite the change in the map. And secondly, the place where the vendors operate on the beach is below the high water mark. And so they do not need any permission from the owner of the property to be there, to operate. Now, some argue that there's some facilities and so on provided to them that is on the owner's property. And we were seeking some assurance from the government that proper facilities be put in place in a place, even if they have to acquire the land to do it, so that it cannot be said that the vendors on the beach would interfere in any way or trespass on the property of a private owner. And so that is one of the major manifestations of the assurances given by the minister that we hope to see before the expiry of this 30-day period, because the vendors who made application should be granted a license. You know, I still have problems with all of the difficulties that the government claims to be having in revenue generation, but the government would put obstacles in place to prevent themselves from getting revenue from the vendors in particular to purchase or pay for or pay the fees for the business license to be renewed.
Understood. Now, while I understand that this matter is before the court, as far as those individuals who were charged, I think it was 10 of them. I think just one of them was a vendor, and 4 of them or so members affiliated with a particular political party, and the rest are taxi cab drivers, as I understand it.
The
All 3
majority,
of them were
the majority are taxi cab drivers.
majority of taxi cab drivers.
Yes.
These are people who did the tour abroad, the tours that to get to the access at Garden Beach.
Yes, and had difficulties when they arrived.
Right.
I think there was a journalist who was arrested. There was a vendor, and then there were a number of other persons who came out in support of the vendor.
Supporters on the demonstration.
Right, on the demonstration,
Mhm.
who were arrested. And without going into too much details about that circumstance, it is an unusual circumstance because when we attended at the police station on Paradise Island with our clients, the police raised, in my presence, only 3 questions. They read the caution and asked if the persons understood the caution. They asked them for their whereabouts on that particular date and time, and they asked them about damage to the fence. But lo and behold, when we arrived to court, there were all these trumped up charges about resisting arrest, obstructing a police officer in his duty, causing damage. There were like 5 or so assault. There was
Several other
a
charges.
number of charges that were never ever brought to the attention of the clients, our clients, at the time of the interview. And so we have a difficulty with the appearance of bias and the appearance of intimidation, so as to frighten and cause other persons not to want to fight or stand up for their rights, should this matter not be resolved. And I can assure you, if this matter is not resolved, if they put a fence back up, in all likelihood, it will come back down, and numbers of persons on Paradise Island will increase. It's not gonna go away because the Bahamians understand that if they permit this to happen, this will work to undermine their rights in other aspects of their life. And I always say this, I said this, that was a Monday and a Tuesday when it happened. The government went to Parliament on Wednesday on a gender equality bill. And my question was, how can you permit an inequality on Monday and Tuesday and then go to Parliament on Wednesday to gain gender equality? You're creating an inequity between a foreign investor and your own citizens on Monday and Tuesday. And then you come to me with a gender equality initiative on Wednesday. It's a contradiction.
Obi, this whole thing is spiraled out of control from a governmental point of view because a lot of people are of the mindset that it could have easily been resolved from day one. It wasn't in 60 days. You believe it will happen in 30 days now. That's what you're telling me, right? Mr. Ferguson?
I don't know if I believe it. I would work was really
Towards that goal.
it really work towards that goal.
Yes.
Yeah. 'Cause really and truly, it would be in the best interest of the country for us to do it. So we will do whatever we have to do to make sure it becomes a reality.
All right, so let me just open my lines for a minute here because I'm going to let them go a bit. For those of you who may have questions, there's some people who have questions as to what's going to happen. 325-023516, 325-024243, and 325-025253. You can also send me your question or statement by WhatsApp or by text at 376-9234. We're on with Hassan Moutry and Obi Ferguson. Obi Ferguson, of course, is the president of the Bahamas Trade Union Congress, a very powerful organization with most of the unions affiliated under that umbrella. And these days, the unions are very, very jumpy and ready to do anything, it appears, that they must do to get the kind of equality. There's a nice word to use there today. That they want in the country. So perhaps if you want to, you can call and quickly state your concern, because I've been getting some messages from people who wondered, what's going to happen at the end of the day. A lot of people, and I know this is a different part of the whole picture, a lot of people that said that they hope that Wilshire will get things worked out for them from the government point of view and tourism and those amenities that they talked about on the beach. They hope that they don't lose the access to the beach. They hope that all those things stay in place. But they also hope that they wouldn't have any record at the end of the day. And of course, the leader of the opposition had spoken to this. He got a lot of ridicule from his political adversaries, of course. But there are some who understand what the opposition leader, Dr. Hubert Minnis, was attempting to say. I didn't see it personally as him trying to interfere with the courts. And I just wanted to ask you your opinion on that. I didn't see it as him trying to interfere with the courts. I saw it as him in his exuberance to show support and to help and assist the Haymans, who in fact have been put at a disadvantage with beach access. And he too seemed to be of the opinion that these are chopped up charges. These are trumped up charges. These are charges of, that they just doing something to just muddy the water. And so his whole thing, in my view, and I could be dead wrong, was that they want to see at the end of the day that people ought not have any fear. I saw that as a political statement in a way saying that, don't be intimidated by these people who will try to give you a record, because most Bamans are afraid of that. And I saw him as trying to just measure out and equalize the whole effect by saying, look, if this happens at the end of the day, we would look at expunging anything of your records, because really, this is a national thing. You ought not to be charged. That was his opinion. Now, if he erred from a point of view of seemingly interfering with the judiciary, that's a different story. I don't know. I'm not qualified. But I'm just saying, just on the face of it, on the surface of it, all things considered, given the whole condition of this matter and the fact that others from other sides didn't even show up in support of these people, I suppose that he felt comfortable in saying that. I just wonder, if you feel free, if you can, what is your point on that? Is there some damage that was done? Does it worth the ridicule that he's getting? I'm trying to motivate and inspire people to continue to press for their rights.
Steve, quite frankly, I had difficulty when I was made to believe that there were persons who thought he was doing something out of line. I thought what the leader of the opposition was doing what he's supposed to be doing, and that is to ensure that the opposition party present a position to the public and to the Bama people as to what they would do if a situation would occur. I didn't see it in that fashion at all. But I also want to make another point, Steve. Just look and see what happened here. The beach, access to the beach should be given to all Bahamians.
Mm-hmm.
But the people who put the fence preventing from Bahamian from accessing, nobody saw fit to bring charges against them for doing that. Mm-hmm. But the fellow who's trying to remove it, they found ways to bring a charge against them for damage of property, whatever they want to call it. But if to me, it seemed to me, but Moji, if there's anybody who's going to be charged, should be the fellow who's putting the fence over or preventing Bahamians from accessing the beach.
Can lawyers like you all cause that to happen? That there's a counter charge of trespassing?
Let me just underscore what Obi is saying. What is so interesting about this, Steve, is that the very entity that was responsible for putting the fence in place represented to the court that the property is no longer theirs and that they were not acting as agents of the new property owner. But when I went out on the beach, out on Cabbage Beach, on the 29th of February, they were removing the gate. So I approached the workers who were removing the gates, and I asked, who gave you instructions to move this gate? And before they were able to answer me, a security officer from Atlantis indicated that Atlantis had given the authority to move the gate and to put up this permanent fence. And I said to them that, look, this matter is before the courts. I produced for them the court documents to show that this issue has yet to be determined by the court and that the status quo should remain until such determination. They,
Sounds logical.
they then, the head of security of Atlantis, then said to me that he doesn't have a court order that says that Atlantis cannot put up the fence. And until he gets a court order stating that Atlantis cannot put up the fence, this fence is going up. And that is what caused the problem. We had an entity that did not own
The property,
The property.
that brought the.
that put the fence up. And now before the criminal courts, we have a circumstance where the virtual complainant is not the owner of the property.
So what does that mean? Is that good stuff for when you all go to court as lawyers? Does that bring up a big point that you can get a dismissal on or something?
It seems to be a highly technical point.
Mm.
And for you to be able to do that, you have to be the owner, or at least the legitimate agent of the owner. And they gave the court documents and an affidavit that they are not the owner, nor are they the agent of the owner.
So this is I know they have a term that's called defective summons. Is this a defective complaint? How do you measure what has happened here? Because that in itself sounds like a big loophole that can in fact be a victory, that can spark a victory on this particular case. Not that we're trying to go into it, but I'm just saying on the surface of it, it's a very, very important point.
Yes, I think. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to respond to. I think that when I saw it, Steve, I was rather concerned because I said, well, look, if you have no right to put the fence up, you're not the owner, you're not the agent. Well, how could you put up a fence to deny Bahamians access to the public beach? And how could the police bring a charge against you on the basis of the complaint lodged by someone who's not the owner,
Who's not the owner?
nor the agent? It's just amazing.
Yet the police brought it to court.
Yes, the police brought, and yes, they were charged.
And I must say this though, having spoken with some of the senior police officers, the police reluctantly brought this matter. And that is perhaps the basis upon which Dr. Minnis made his statement, in that we have a circumstance where someone, for example, would come to Steve McKinney home, put up a fence across Steve McKinney gate, and then when Steve McKinney takes the fence down so he could get access to the public road, you bring charges against him.
You touch your fence.
Yeah,
Would you put there?
what you put there across,
Would you trust us to put there?
Exactly.
yeah, across the public access that you don't know. The government really should have taken down that fence. When you think about it, the government should have taken down that fence.
But are not the people the government?
Well,
If they say the people take down the fence, governments represent the people. I mean, you guys seem like you're gonna have a field day in the court on this particular matter. We wish you the best of luck and hope that all things will go well. But here are some people just talking about this here online and talking about a number of things. It says, Steve, freedom of information, the police commissioner, the attorney general, the speaker of the House, and the Senate should be positions that are elected separately by the people. The position prime minister has, the position of prime minister has too much power. And it goes on to talk about, Steve, they're begging investors. They're part of the conversation we have to say that the trouble why things are going this way This person says, Steve, in my opinion, they're begging investors because they like money or have taken money and can't talk to them too hard. So it says we need an early election. This person is trying to sum up as to why this compulsory acquisition just can't happen. You remember I asked that question earlier. It seems the logical thing to do, yet it has not happened. And this person says, Steve, this government has lied, and now God is exposing their true nature. And he says, you know, again, this Attorney General's office, man, this is where the problems are, is what this person is saying. And so we have some who are talking about this. Good evening, Mr. McKinney. I cannot believe that Mr. Ferguson has faith in what the minister has to say. Only fools believe. Talk is cheap and elections are in the air. The government will promise anything. Several exclamation marks. I got it. The government will promise anything. Steve, this is a sad situation. Continue to well. So sorry. Okay. So this person is commenting on this. This is a sad situation, and he wants you all to continue to persevere. There are many other text messages. Let me just go and read some of these from the text. This person says, the AG's office making you all look bad. Fire or shuffle, Perry Christie, as soon as possible. Fire or shuffle. This person says, Steve, this is an excellent opportunity for the government to purchase that land and build bathrooms and a police station, is what that one says. Another says this, Steve, they joking. This government soon go, it ain't long now. People are just, like they're hearing what you're saying, but they've already gotten a focus on government and the politics of things. And so that's what they're texting. Good evening, Mr. McKinney. I say much respect for both Mr. Obie Ferguson and House of Moultrie, bringing this to the public eyes and standing up for the Bahamian people for their rights. We appreciate it, is what that person there says. And the other text message, Steve, can you ask Obie if he would be willing to represent the Malia workers? Something say, CS Miss Martin disappear or something. Oh, must be saying because Miss Martin disappeared. That's the hotel workers. That person. Will you be willing to represent Malia workers?
I have no difficulty as long as it's in the interest of the workers. If I don't discriminate, I will represent workers in this country no matter where.
This person asked the question, will the access be the same as before? Since all this talk is now coming up, what's going to happen? Will you all settle for access someplace else, or are you pushing hard for this same access to be the access?
The access has to be the same, Steve. We have no interest in deviating from the position as it exists today.
All right, let me take this call. Hard copy, how are you? Hard copy, how are you?
Yes, Mr. McKinney, Mr. Moultrie, and Mr. Ferguson and your guest. Yeah, I'm calling with reference to the sad situation at Paradise Island access to the beach.
Yes.
And it seems as though Minister was only simply trying to assist the vendors and rights to that beach. It seems like once the person's charge had a charge, it was increased by the police. As a matter of fact, Atlantis has been interfering with people's business from time immemorial. Because I remember before they even acquired the property, I was doing some work by the ferry terminal, and the police officer took me and others into the police station to charge us. So I asked them if the Atlantis had owned the property. They said no. I said, I'm afraid I cannot give you my name because they don't own that property, so they had to release me. As a matter of fact, Atlantis, with those vendors, I mean, you have a lady, she's almost 70 plus, and these people struggle from Riverside Beach, Hillside, should say, to come to Paradise, and they're trying to help themselves. So what are they to do? At least they're not trying to beg for anything, they're trying to help and come for their family. Follow me? So
Yes.
I just say press on forward, and you all try to get what needs to be done. And we needn't be afraid of the police or being charged, because if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. Okay?
Appreciate your call.
Yeah, all right.
Wonderful. So there are some people who are chiming in on this, but I suppose that there are people who are just tuning in late. The news is promising, according to Obie Ferguson and House of Moultrie. They have met with Minister Obie Wolsham, who in fact was at front and center of this whole controversy. with the letter by Lennox Payton that was written to him, that was signed by him, that talked about an extension for 60 days initially. And of course, he had met with beach vendors, trying to get them to understand that this is a big picture, and that they should have access, like as all Bahamians, to the beach, and that he wanted to do some other things in the meantime. He may have been misunderstood. He may not have, but there were people who said that they thought that he was trying to usurp the authority, I suppose, of the Association on Parties on the Vendors, Mrs. Taylor, and that in her own words in one of the newspapers, it said that he seemed to have been giving inducements to people to want to go who he was suggesting should go elsewhere. Of course, Obie Ferguson and Hassan Mutri, two prominent attorneys, met with Wilshcombe, the Minister of Tourism, since that time, and they're telling me that they are on a progressive path. They don't have anything conclusive yet, but all things being what they are, it seems like both sides are on the same page in working toward the same amicable resolution. And so that's a good thing. And we thought that we should bring it to you because we believe on this show that we should do things and follow them to their most logical conclusion. There's no sense in running from one fire to the next. We've got to out one fire at a time. And while it's tempting to go and talk about some other areas of interest that people may be interested in for conversation, the whole purpose and objective of Hard Copy is to get it resolved, get things done, and move on to the next big problem there's one. And so it seems as if something great is about to happen here, and we do wish that all individuals are speaking from a position of honesty and fair play and equality, and that the big prize is that the Bahamian people want to respect the players involved and don't want to be let down by their own. That itself should be motivation for everyone who's Bahamian in this matter to look out for Bahamians. After all, we are talking about putting Bahamians first, and that Bahamians should reign supreme in this country. And I suppose that's one of the things. Gentlemen, so if you were to look now at the next move is to wait and see. The next move is what? Within 15 days, because there's a 30-day window from the 29th. We're now at the 15th of March. And I suppose right now, you're counting down the days, hoping that there's going to be some major announcement that compulsory acquisition has been done. The beach access remains where it is. There is no fence. And people can go and do what they have to do. You think that would be the...
That's what we would hopefully
Right.
like to see happen.
That would be the good news.
That would be the good news, and we'd be more than happy to come back, Steve, and make an announcement to that effect. But we, myself and Mr. Mutri, we are committed to doing what is necessary to ensure that that beach remain accessible to all Bahamians, tourists, taxi drivers, all Bahamians. That's our commitment to Bahamian people.
Okay, all right. So this person is telling me, say, good evening, Steve. I say much respect for both Mr. Obie Ferguson and Hassan Mutri, bringing to the public eyes. We appreciate it that they stand up for Bahamian rights. It says feedback on the ground with the Cabot Beach arrest, an increased amount of persons still willing to stand and remove that fence if they put it back up. Yeah, this person obviously heard you say they may be attempting to put that fence back up, but I don't know. All things considered, with what has gone down so far, none of the government doesn't look good at this. The owners don't look good at it, and the poor vendors seem to have been taken advantage of. I think they'll be smart and well enough to leave alone and replace things the way they were.
I would say if the government exercise any measure of wisdom, they would try to avoid a circumstance
working session on a Tuesday. We like to deal with the people's business on Tuesday to get some things done. You heard us talk about the folks in Bimini and what's happening there already. We're getting some treading on that, and people are in authority are looking at that right now, and I'm sure we'll have an update on it sometime this week. And we've also talked about what's happening with the vendors on Paradise Island and in general, Bahamian people who will have access to the beach. And it seems that that's also looking pretty promising. And the players are optimistic that beach access may in fact be granted, or it may the right of way may be in a position of remaining. And of course, Obi Wolshcombe is working from the government's end, Obi Ferguson House and Nutri from the people's end, and we'll see how those two things come together. But there are also other concerns today, and that's why I asked you. You can send me your text, your email at stevebroadcasting@yahoo.com. You can send a text at 376-9234. You can WhatsApp me at that same number and bring me up to speed on the other concerns that you have that may have fallen off the table of attention. And that can easily happen if we are a gullible people in search of the juicy, sweet news and gossip of things that may be or may not be. And that's human nature, so don't feel bad about it. But I want to bring to your attention a couple of notes of interest. The folks in Carmichael Road here in New Providence are hoping and wishing and praying that the government of the Bahamas, through its Ministry of Works, another area that has been distracted by apparent scandal with this whole NIGOD thing, they're hoping that the minister, though, would pay attention, or the junior minister, who is Minister of State, I think now, Mr. Forbes, Arnold Forbes, who did a fantastic job with that agricultural thing, and the people of the Ministry of Agriculture, I should say. But now they want him, or Brave Davis, to put attention on Carmichael Road, St. Vincent Road. It needs a sidewalk. Why is that important? Why did I bring that on national radio? Because you remember the woman and her baby who were knocked down and run over and dragged. I think the baby died and the mother died or something of that nature. Last year, that was last year, or maybe it was the end of 2014. But it was in recent times that happened because the road was unlit, St. Vincent Road. It was wide, people speed along it, and there was no sidewalk. There is still no sidewalk. So the residents there have contacted hard copy that we should have a sidewalk placed on St. Vincent Road so that the residents there may not become victims of traffic fatalities. And that's one of the reasons why I'm saying, if there are some other complaints of interest here today, this is the time to get it in, because this is the working session. And when you hear me say that, understand that there are agents of the various ministries who have to pay attention on the working session to make sure that the government don't look so bad if they can get the report as to what's happening. So this is your chance. And you can't blame me. I make it available for you because I work for you. And all you've got to do is call or send me a text and we'll get it done. Now, here's something that's quite interesting as I throw out my numbers, 32502, 4243, 32502, 5253, and 32502, 35 or 36. That's how you can call me. There's some other concerns that are happening here. And I want to share this with you. A person sent me this WhatsApp and said to me, Steve, there is a whole breed of people we just can't elect to rule over us. This is a submission that someone has put together because of all that's going on in the country. This person says they told Christians that we shouldn't get into politics. But if the real righteous people don't go into politics, we will get all this mess and worse. When the righteous rule, this person ends, the people rejoice. When the wicked rule, the people mourn. Now, that's biblical. But this here said to me prompts this thought in my head again. We need a convergence. Let me tell you why I'm saying that. I looked at the Tribune's editorial today, just briefly, and the Tribune has been putting out some very interesting editorials that would catch anybody's attention. You know what it says here? In time of crisis, urgent need for strong opposition leader. And they said, at a time when the Bahamian people needs a strong opposition, it seems that the FNM is at its weakest. The leadership question has to be settled earlier than the end of this year. A fact that has become obvious when FNM leader Dr. Hubert Minnis recently led a group of protesters to the Nassau Street Magistrate Court complex, where 10 of their number were being charged with blocking private property at Cabbage Beach. The charges against them were damage, disorderly behavior, and 3 counts of obstruction. Say only one pleaded not guilty. They're going on to talk about the case, but the main thing that they're saying here is that in an attempt to show that his party was in sympathy with the little man, Dr. Minnis displayed complete ignorance of the separation of powers under the Westminster system of government, the Bahamas system of government. So his march to court suggests that his party is still not working as a cohesive unit, because if he had consulted his colleagues, he would have been advised by the lawyers among them on the consequences of assembling outside a court of law to try to influence the proceedings inside. Now, I don't know if that's what he was doing, but they write that from a point of view saying that he's missed the boat again. You've been hearing that over and over, that people believe that Minnis has missed the boat, and maybe he has been missing the boat. Maybe he is stubborn, maybe he doesn't listen, maybe he has the wrong people surrounding him, maybe he's being set up to fail, maybe all of these things, I don't know. All I know is this, that this person who sent me the WhatsApp is basically saying that there's a whole breed of people we just can't elect to rule over us. They told the Christians not to get into politics, but it's the real righteous people. But it says, but if the real righteous people don't get into politics, we will get in all this mess and worse. And I connected that story of the Tribune, the editorial, and this text together, or this WhatsApp together, because it shows that people want a change. They want wholesome leadership that's competent, that is relevant, that is ready, that is courageous, that is on a righteous path. Now, that's where the word convergence comes in again, because there are some people, believe it or not, friends, who are in this country right now, young Bahamians, men and women, who are ready to lead our country in a new direction as soon as possible. But they have been slow in mobilizing themselves in this time of convergence. There's Greg Moss on one end, there's Renford and Rollins over there, there's Paul Moss and John Bostwick over there, there are others over this way and that way. There are great women like Melinda Wilson and many others who are over that way, and there's Granville over this way, and all that kind of stuff. Can they all just come together, pool their collective resources, and fix the country? I think all of them have great ideas and great ambition to do something, but if there is no convergence, friends, nothing's happened. And in the lack of the convergence of these forces coming together with a dynamic front and a wonderful focus of doing better for the country, the same old will happen. Aren't you tired of the complaints? I know I am. Let me tell you something. I'm very tired of all this negative stuff. I cannot lie to you. It is not encouraging to come and just continue on with that. I mean, I know it's happening. I'm not suggesting that we ignore it. We have to face it. We have to face our fears and face these things. But I'm saying, collectively as a society, we must be tired, man. We have to be on the side of getting things done for our people. There's only one way to get things done. The convergence must be with these young men and women who are ready to lead our country. And it doesn't matter if they're Haitian, Bahamian, Jamaican, Bahamian, listen, we have to get together. If you have the common goal, if you have stake in the country, skin in the game, if you have children of the future in the game, if you are a woman, if you are a man, doesn't matter. We have to pool our resources. You know why? If we don't, we all will suffer. Aren't we suffering now? The place is dirty. There are no jobs. There are people losing their homes that they've worked so hard for in mortgages. There is no mortgage relief. There is no real opportunity for Bahamians to be owners. And if there is, it's so hard to get that Bahamians would be discouraged just by standing in line. There is no encouragement. There are no incentives to do things. The encouragement goes out of the window when it's harder, more difficult to get into business because of all the red tape, business license, and all the stuff that the government has put in place. And I'm sure they were trying to do it in a way to assist and to speed up the process. But the bureaucracy has slowed down the process tremendously to the point where it's discouraged citizenry from even getting into business. The value-added tax, which is a mandatory thing, the national insurance for a small business, it is rough. We have to do it. These are the rules. We play by the rules, but I'm showing you, it is not an encouraging sign if there is no kind of funding, venture capital funding. And you have to ask yourself, what are we doing as leaders in the country when we can sit down and we can see what can be done for our people by new ideas coming to the forefront and saying, how do we tap into the expectation of foreign investors who come, of local investors who want to expand? How do we get them to pool something for others who may be coming behind? That can be done. We're not thinking along those lines because we are fresh out of ideas. The ideas are very old, and you need new people to spur on new ideas. That's how new ideas generate, by new people coming in to make some things happen. Can I talk with you for a minute? See, because we are unable to do this, we are stuck in the mud. We're not going anywhere. We are stale. We are a stalemate. Nothing's happening for our people. There are so many young professional individuals and so many young, inspiring individuals with just raw talent. We have not been able to pool their resources. We have not been able to create skills banks or any of those things for our people. So our people are disillusioned. Is there any wonder that people are disconnected, disengaged, disenchanted, disillusioned? Is there any wonder? We're not doing enough to get our people. So this lady who wrote this text to me, or this WhatsApp, is absolutely right. The righteous must find a way and a place in politics, because those who are of an evil mind in politics, they're doing their own thing. They are marching to their own sound of the drum. They are oblivious of the reality that there are young people in this country who want to go somewhere, who want something to be promised, who want to have promise of a better tomorrow by providing opportunities today. It's not happening. We have paid lip service to these people. These people are going to rebel, you know. These same young people who we have not paid attention to will rebel in one way or another. Some are rebelling now. They don't have no love for one another. They are just a menace to society. They're just shooting guns and doing all the things that are just contrary to real civility. That's happening for a reason. They're speaking the only language they know by being nasty-minded, by being determined to do things their way, belligerent, and they could care less. That's happening for a reason. But if we were to capture and hear them, listen to them talk, and meet them where they are, with all this technology that they know, man, we have got to be a blessed nation. to see the amount of young people who, at the age of perhaps 6, 7 years old, they are right into this computer. They can do everything with these smartphones. That is an industry within itself. Can we find something that they can do nationally for this country? Even if they were to do polls and that kind of stuff, can we make them feel a part of something? But you need to have people with a different mindset, a different kind of thinking for that to happen. You need to have some people move out of the way. You need to have some leaders who are right now primed and set to lead this country, jump up and do it. I had a conversation late last evening with a good friend of mine, a colleague of mine, who shall appear on the show tomorrow. And we talked about a lot of stuff. And something was suggested, and I'm hoping that when I sleep on it again tonight, and he sleeps on that again tonight, that we come tomorrow fresh to bring about this kind of idea to switch around your psyche, that we can do this, that it's time to do it. We cannot be waiting for, as the Tribune put it, these leaders that have these laps, they're not interested in having new ideas really push them along. They are making mistakes because they refuse to consult, and we just spinning wheels. I'll be tired of that. On the other hand, a dynamic, talented team of PLPs, but they are like Alice in Wonderland. And I'm being nice to them today because of the fact that they are caught up in so many things that have the potential of becoming scandals that it is not a pretty picture. That's a discouraging thing for young people. They figure, boy, if that's where the leaders are, cheaper we try to get something to eat. There's a right way and a wrong way. And then on top of that, added to this misery that we are having, people broke, poor, ain't got a need. That's a real thing. Now, some of you may say, nah, that's always been. No, it has gotten worse. The misery index is worse in this town. And then to add insult to injury, the people who are supposed to be looking out for us, the moral gatekeepers, the church, they are missing in action. You have to wonder how we can turn some things around. And I tell you, the remedy is right before us, you know. We're missing it. We can't see the forest for the trees, but the remedy is there. The remedy, all these young men and women who want to be a part of political paradigm shift, they may now be involved in other political parties. There may be a time that they must consider almost right away this convergence of them as individuals coming together, getting off their high horses, getting off their own individual paths. Is there any room in the DNA, Brandon McCartney, for other people? Is there any room, Greg Moss, in your party, the United Democratic Party, to bring others along? Is there any room in the Free National Movement? Is there any room in the PLP? There may be room, but what is the criteria of getting involved? And then there's Paul Moss and Ali McIntosh and Grohl, Pastor Grohl, I call him, Glenn, and John Bostwick, and several others, you know. Farquharson, young Farquharson. You all got to find a way to sit down and have a meeting and see what can be worked out between now and 2017. It's not too late. Here's what we are faced with, people. We're faced with a group of people who don't have no confidence in Minnis, may not put no money behind him, not that he may need that, but he needs cohesion. They still seem to be having a lot of internal problems in the Free National Movement. That's one on one hand. They're not getting it done fast enough. The other thing that we're faced with is we're faced with a political party that's the governing party, the PLP. We're faced with what with them? We're faced with this perception of corruption and scandal and grabbing. That's a very real perception. May not be true, but that's what people believe. That's what they have been impressed with. How do you deal with this? Do you choose the best of two evils? Or do you find it a wonderful idea to promote the concept of convergence with the other people in different parties who may be able to come together. Let me be frank with you. I can tell you this right now. You see that same Ali McIntosh, the servant leader of the Constitution Party, the Bahamas Constitution Party. They got a good framework. They got a good framework. Now, I know that you're laughing because you say, my goodness. No, they got a good framework. Listen to what they're talking about. They're basing things upon law. What's in the Constitution of the Bahamas. By this time, we need that kind of focus. That may be the group that everybody should converge with. I'm serious with that. Come around, and everybody got their role to play under the banner of that particular name, and the servant leader must be willing to embrace them all and to have them add to what they now have. That may be the best approach this late in the game. Now, let me tell you why I say that. McIntosh and them have been around for 18 years. They've never won a seat, never even got the deposit back. But they've got a resolute Christian doctrine based upon law and order on the Constitution of the Bahamas. That may be a good beginning point. Could you imagine a Paul Moss and a Glenn Rue and a Greg Moss and a John Bostrick and a Brandon McCartney and all these people coming together in a convergence under such a banner and together make it happen? Why am I saying this? The people need an alternative man. And right now, a lot of people have dropped off the line. They're disillusioned because they feel disenfranchised. They ain't checking for the PLP, and they ain't checking for the FNL. And some people say, well, that's what it now. Wait till the bell rings. No, fundamentally, these people have been turned off. I get these text messages every day. I don't even read some of them now. On the air, because they're almost the same. The best thing to do, Steve, is get rid of these two parties. Why are they saying that? Why are people saying that? They're saying that because they feel that. And that's why I'm saying to you today, I just wanted to bend your ear with that. It's just a suggestion to look at it. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you that if there's a chance to do something, it may be that chance for the Bahamian people. Do you think that we have enough Bahamian people that can gather themselves? All these professionals who are taking flight and going to another country, these professionals who have been laid off, these people who are losing homes. Is there something else that you can galvanize around? If you trust these individual persons, can we ask them to gather themselves together and go for it? Let me tell you, over the next few days, next few weeks, plenty of politics. And it make no sense talking politics where nothing is happening. Nothing is happening for the people who something should happen. 5 years is a long time to have made a mistake. Putting some people in a they ain't paying you no mind, that's a long time to wait. The next calculation for the next general election after 2017 is 2022. You know how much the world will change by 2022? I just sometimes get ahead of myself and think about all these things. And try to get you to see some of that so that you can get serious about the country. Yeah? We need to get serious about the country. All of us, media, church, officials of state, members of parliament, agents of the government, opposition members, we need to get serious about the country because we are in a bad way. All of this stuff that you see in the local papers, mind that all over the world, not on every place you can look. We making all kind of headlines. Some of them laughing at this place they call paradise. Say now paradise is up for grabs by two feuding billionaires. Come on, man. You want a paradigm shift? Well, it begins with you. You got to make it happen. Tomorrow on the show, we'll be joined by John Bostwick and others. We're going to talk about some very interesting things like this gender equality bill. I think I have the answers that some people have been looking for with regards to Miles Monroe and his statement, with regards to the people who are pushing the gender equality bill. And we will give you some insight tomorrow, I promise you, that will blow your mind, that we are most vulnerable for a lot of things right now and don't even know it. I will give that to you tomorrow. We will also talk with John Bostwick and others on the show about any number of issues that you will find interesting. Because we are at that point now where we either swim or sink. That's the way it is. And so I do invite you to be a part of it tomorrow. I'm not taking any more calls. I do invite you to be a part of it tomorrow. And let's see what happens. But the time has come, really, friends. I want to leave that with you tonight. Our real convergence of the political forces and those persons with political acumen and ambition, if not to start something new, which you can, still not too late, to link up with those who need the help. What's the best group possible right now that you can join to help to boost and push? What's the best group? That's how you got to be thinking. And there's no time for fooling around. So I made mention of some names tonight. There are many more that we may have to make mention of to cajole them to come along and do some stuff. There's too much time being wasted. The country is going to ruin. Let's go home, Irvin. You can look online and see us post all the text messages and your questions and queries and statements and opinions and